executive chairman of the board at Southwest Airlines, will be deplanning. So the airline announced that Gary Kelly is set to retire next year. This comes after one of the world's most powerful activist investors, Elliott Investment Management, launched a boardroom battle. It wants both Kelly and CEO Bob Jordan out. So Elliott claims that Southwest management is rigid and has a decades-old approach. Now, Southwest remains supportive of Jordan's leadership. And moving on to Bank of America, one step closer to its goal of $25 per hour by 2025. The bank announced that it has raised its minimum wage in the U.S. to $24 per hour. And this is part of the company's years-long timeline to raise wages. The increase applies to all full-time and part-time hourly employees. This includes tellers, call center workers, and more. Reports showing that the new hourly rate goes into effect next month. We're seeing pain in the produce department, and it could be easing though for Americans. New data shows online grocery prices fell 3.7% in August, and the drop was the largest month-over-month decline since Adobe started tracking online prices a decade ago. Prices did rise year over year, but it was a smaller jump than July's increase. So the issue of grocery prices has made its way to the campaign trail. Vice President Kamala Harris has promised to end price gouging by grocery stores, while former President Donald Trump notes the substantial increase in food prices under the Biden administration. Now, we've heard today that Europe's highest court sided with the EU, and Google and Apple are on the hook for billions of dollars. We're now going to NTD's David Lam for the report.
The European Union's antitrust chief said today was a huge win for European citizens and tax justice.
The Court of Justice confirmed the decision from 2016 by the European Commission. Ireland granted Apple unlawful aid, which Ireland now has to recover. And this judgment is final. The court also confirms the Commission decision in the Google Shopping antitrust case. And also this is a final judgment.
There are two separate cases. In Apple's tax case, the EU Court of Justice ordered the company to release up to 13 billion euros to Ireland. The European Commission in 2016 ordered Apple to pay back taxes to Ireland, saying the company benefited from tax deals for over 2 decades. Its tax burden was less than 1% in 2014. Apple said its income was already subject to U.S. taxes. In the Google case, the company tried to appeal a 2.4 billion euro fine, but the court dismissed the appeal. In 2017, Google was fined for using its own price comparison shopping service to gain an advantage over smaller European rivals. Google said it's disappointed in the ruling, saying it complied and had made changes in 2017. The EU said both decisions are final. David Lam, NTD News.
So worth mentioning today that Oracle stock hit a new all-time high. Wall Street giving it the thumbs up after first quarter results that topped estimates. On an earnings call, its CEO said that demand is outstripping supply. The company's cloud services are driving its earnings. Revenue from cloud infrastructure up 45% from the same quarter last year. Artificial intelligence has helped Oracle become a strong player in the cloud market. The company has about 160 data centers, but plans to build more to cement itself in the AI training business. Okay, so automotive expert Lauren Fix told us that China is taking over the auto industry. Very striking statement here. She joins us now. Lauren, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you.
So tell us what you mean. Did you mean that exactly, that China is taking over the auto industry?
They are, and how they're doing it is actually very creative and very intelligent. And they've been working on this for a long time. If you can create a need for electric batteries and you tell everyone before you make that move that you purchase all of the mines, or at least the bulk of the mines around the world, and then say, oh yeah, battery, there's a problem with the environment, we need to push this, we need to Everyone needs to go with electric cars. And then who's the first one to come up with the electric car? Well, they are, although Elon Musk is the first one here. And now they're pushing the fact that if you need these batteries, you need to get the components and the parts from us. And we've offshored so many components and parts to China that belong in domestic cars, German cars, Japanese, Korean cars, that, before we can even go out on our own and produce these products. The problem is that China's already got a stronghold. And once you blaze a trail in any industry, it's very difficult to get in front of the leader. And they know that. And what they've done also, which is extremely interesting, is they reached out to the Russian government and said, hey, listen, you're building Ladas and cars that, aren't really selling. How about we supply you with cars? Well, now 100% of the cars sold in Russia are Chinese cars, and they're not electric cars. They're combustion engines. They're not hybrids. They're gasoline powered. And so I found that very interesting. So they're controlling the market and they're controlling what's out there. And if you want to build in China, great. We'll be thrilled to have your plant. But here's the thing, Don. You have to give half of the ownership up to the Chinese government. And so that's what Tesla did. That's what Volkswagen has done for the plant that's there. Audi has done it. Other brands have done it. Ford has done it. Many have left. Some have stayed. But you're seeing even like, for example, Volvo, they have the new EX90 and they're building vehicles there. But China owns half of that plant, and it's an all-electric 3-row SUV.
So you mentioned Volkswagen here. Can you tell us exactly what happened to the company?
Well, sure. Volkswagen kind of messed it up themselves, to be honest with you. Back in the early 2000s, they came with diesel, and they showed us through the mileage marathon event, which I was at, and it was absolutely fantastic, and why I still own a diesel SUV. They showed us that you can get 55 miles to the gallon. Consumers scooped them up as quick as they could. At some point, some engineers promised something that they could take out what's called AdBlue. It's an additive that's put in the exhaust to reduce the exhaust so it doesn't damage the environment. Well, they promised they could build a vehicle without an AdBlue tank. Well, the problem was they overpromised and underdelivered and produced products that cheated the system, and they got caught. And because of that, which we call in our industry Dieselgate, diesel was no longer available in the U.S. Other brands got questioned and fined as well. And actually, one of the German people who were in charge of this diesel program is going to be in court in the next couple of weeks. So I'll be watching and monitoring that as well. But the bottom line was they were forced to build electric cars. Consumers liked the thought of it. They liked the low prices coming from Volkswagen. You still get the Volkswagen technology and fun to drive. But in the big picture, it didn't sell because in most countries, it doesn't work. And if you look at sales across Europe, some countries are doing really well. Other countries, such as India, they're not selling so well. And in England, I was just there. They have an electricity shortage. So if you're short electricity, how do you sell electric cars? And we have the same problem here in the U.S. We have grid issues. We had a blackout today in Los Angeles. If you had an electric car, you're not charging. If you had gasoline-powered car and you had a full tank, well, you're doing okay. So the thing is with gasoline, I can give you a gallon of gas. I can't give you a gallon of electricity. We also have a problem here in the U.S., and it's starting to reach around the world with copper being stolen from these charging stations, which are the line that goes from the charging station to the car. They're clipping them off and they're selling the copper because copper is so expensive. So again, there's a lot of factors that weren't involved: the cost of owning the vehicle, the insurance, the limitations on how far you can go and where you can charge have frustrated a lot of North America. And so we're watching sales drop here in the U.S., drop in Europe. And if you drive by any dealer lot here in the U.S., you're going to see a lot of cars sitting there.
All right. So about 15 seconds here. In light of tonight's debate, what policies would you like to hear to protect the U.S. from China's influence in the automotive industry?
Well, I want to hear the truth. And the truth is what I hear is coming from President Donald Trump, where he's talking about he's going to put tariffs on not allowing Chinese vehicles in here because it will destroy our market like it did with Germany. But also he wants to allow people to make choices. You pick what you want. You want an electric car? Great. You want a hybrid? Awesome. Gas? Great. If Kamala Harris becomes the next president, we already know it's going to be all electric and you have no choices, and that's going to be limitations, and everything's going to get more expensive, gas and electricity.
All right, Lauren, thank you very much for coming on the show today. A pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, so yeah, that was Lauren Fix. She's an automotive expert, very much a veteran in the industry. All right, so we're moving on from that to our next story today. We just have a couple more to get through. So starting with hundreds of employees at Samsung Electronics plant in southern India They were on strike for a second day today. The walkout was a rare episode of labor unrest for the South Korean company. About half of the factory's daily production was affected yesterday as workers pressed for higher wages, better hours, and company recognition for the union. In South Korea, the 36,000 member of Samsung's biggest union have also been demanding higher wages and benefits. Those workers held a strike for several days in July and August. The latest strike comes ahead of India's festive season when consumers buy gifts or items for personal use. And 4 private citizens are now in orbit. They're aboard one of Elon Musk's SpaceX capsules, and they will soon attempt the first ever private citizen spacewalk. It's not without its risks, of course. The crew is facing potentially extreme temperatures and debris flying at 17,000 miles an hour. Here's the story.
Early Tuesday morning, 4 private citizens geared up in SpaceX spacesuits. They're preparing to launch into space as part of SpaceX's Polaris Dawn mission. Among them, entrepreneur Jared Isaacman, retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Scott Pottit, NASA veteran Anna Menon, and former SpaceX intern Sarah Gillis.
4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, and go Falcon, go Polaris.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Touchdown. Just read the instructions. A very excited crowd there.
The 4 private citizens will conduct experiments on how space affects human health, test out Starlink communications tech, and attempt the first ever private citizen spacewalk. Obviously, a spacewalk means having to leave the spaceship's controlled environment.
The riskiest part of it is that you threw away your atmosphere and then you have to rebuild it after the mission. There is no airlock. I think, if there's micrometeorite contact, then it was one hell of an unlucky day.
Mission Commander Isaacman explained earlier this year that the goal is to test the suits. He says similar suits could be worn in the future if humans populate another planet. Spacewalks are risky. The suits are the only protection against the vacuum of space. Debris there can fly at 17,000 miles an hour. Temperatures can be extreme, and suits can malfunction. If the steel tether tying the astronaut to the ship breaks, he or she could just float away. Luckily, that's never happened before.
The full operation in total is going to be around 2 hours. And, we really are hoping to bring back this knowledge for the SpaceX team of how does a suit perform.
Sarah Gillis, the former SpaceX intern, says the crew will use what they learn to make the suits better. The 4 will spend 5 days orbiting Earth. This is the first of at least 3 anticipated missions, all funded by Isaacman.
Okay, so before we go today, quick mention of markets. Wall Street shaking off some of its early blues today. S&P up today, just shy of 0.5%. NASDAQ up 0.8%. The Dow Jones, the outlier here, down at 0.2% today. As we mentioned earlier, cloud company Oracle up 11% today on strong earnings. All right, and with that, all the stories on Business Matters today. Chris, Fiona?
Don, your interview with Lauren Fix was interesting today. It sounds like she's saying that China controls a significant part of the EV market, and that these tariffs that Donald Trump gets, condemned for pushing by his opponents could end up stymieing China's dominance in the EV market.
Yeah, I guess her concern was that China's become too powerful in the EV sector, and with Donald Trump, she may feel a bit better in terms of those concerns, but with Kamala Harris, she's saying that we'll get more EVs, and that will probably fuel her concerns even more.
Yeah, well, it does seem like EVs have been talked about, have been part of conversations for a while now. They seem to be a big part of everything that's happening. And it seems that everything is coming back to this election, right? Even just then in your interview with a car expert, she was referring to the presidential candidates. So with the presidential debate tonight, maybe they'll have a question about that. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we are just a little over 50 days until the election, and it's one of the most heated elections in my lifetime, aside from the 2020. So,
yeah, we'll keep a close eye on the election, and of course, you mentioned earlier we'll have coverage on it, so don't miss it.
All right, Don, thank you.
Thank you.